next item on the agenda, first reading of ordinance authorizing the city of Beckley to convey 131.47 acres of real estate, more or less, located in the Pinecrest Industrial Park in Beckley, Raleigh County, West Virginia, to the Raleigh County Commission for the purpose of economic development of this real estate. So again, I will turn it over to Mr. Fowle for more.
Thanks, sir. Yes, once again, I will read this ordinance by title. Tonight is first reading. If approved tonight, there will be a second reading and a public hearing on the 24th day of September. And what this ordinance does is it authorizes the city of Beckley to convey the property that's basically known as the Pinecrest Industrial Park to the Raleigh County Commission. The Raleigh County Commission has agreed to fund the infrastructure on this property. Therefore, this property will then be basically pad ready or ready for development. Something important to keep in mind is there are covenants and restrictions that control what can be done on this property, and these are of record in the clerk's office, and so anybody that does any development or uses this property is subject to these covenants and restrictions. The property consists of 131.47 acres. That's approximate. It could be a little bit more, a little bit less. And the title of this property is First Reading of Ordinance Authorizing the City of Beckley to convey 131.47 acres of real estate, more or less, located in the Pinecrest Industrial Park in Beckley, Raleigh County, West Virginia, to the Raleigh County Commission for the purpose of economic development of this real estate. And as I stated earlier, public comment will be available for this ordinance if it's to be discussed during the public hearing, during second reading on the 24th of September. And Mayor, I'll turn it back to you and ask that you request a vote, or request a motion. Sure. And a vote.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that due to the information that was learned at the workshop, I made a comment to that I would like to deed the property. I said, I have a novel idea. Let's deed the Board of Education the property where the cross-country course is. And Mr. Roop said, well, they don't want it. And I said, did you ask? And he said, no. Well, in complete transparency to our citizens, I asked, and we received a letter today from Dr. Serena Starcher that says this trail has certainly benefited our student athletes. It has been stated that the trail is the most unique trail in the state, given that spectators can view an entire cross-country race. Given the school system's current use of the cross-country trail, I respectfully request the opportunity to discuss the potential transfer of property from the city to the county and its subsequent impact on the trail. My motion is to split the deed and give the Board of Education the cross-country course for youth development, community engagement, and community camaraderie, and to deed the remaining property to the County Commission for economic development. And it's something, you know, I've been saying, if this is meant to be, you know, I hate that the students and the athletes and the 2,500 and the 47 high schools that came to the Chick-fil-A Invitational the other day. But here's a quote from Kanawha County State Senator Mike Stewart about economic development, just this past week on the Hoppy Crutchable show. I think there is nothing more important to economic development than youth sports. Now, granted, he said economic development. That property is for economic development. And I just want to say we are a strong council, and I'm trying to do what's best for the city of Beckley. I'm trying to do what's best for our students and for everything that is out there. So that's my motion. To Mr. Fowle.
May I ask, I'm assuming that you're wanting to amend the ordinance as presented. Is that
May
correct?
we amend the ordinance as presented?
What we first need to do is we need to get a motion.
Motion to amend the
No,
ordinance?
you first need to get a motion putting this on the agenda.
It is on the agenda.
Excuse me, putting it before the council with a second. and then once it's been moved to be adopted and there's a second, then that.
I can't do that now, but even though it's on the agenda?
Not before, there's nothing actually to amend until you, until we get it.
So may I get that on the agenda the next time?
No, I'm sorry.
He's saying that we have to get a first and a second on this.
A first and a second on this?
We need to get,
All right,
the ordinance that I read,
okay.
and that, once again, so it's clear, it's first reading of ordinance authorizing the city of Beckley to convey 131.47 acres of real estate, more or less, located in the Pinecrest Industrial Park in Beckley, Raleigh County, West Virginia, to the Raleigh County Commission for the purpose of economic development of this real estate. Now, what would need to occur is there needs to be a motion to adopt this ordinance and then a second. So Mayor,
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. So may I have a motion to approve the transfer of Pinecrest Industrial Park to the Raleigh County Commission?
So does this mean that the motion is
Just-
just on this?
Yes.
it's a motion to put this ordinance before council to vote on.
Right.
And then if there's to be an amendment, then that would be the time that someone could move to amend the ordinance.
I'll make the motion. I'll say it.
Thank you, Kip. Any questions or comments?
Now would be the time.
I would like to make a motion to amend the deed to represent that the county commission will get the rest of the property at Pinecrest for economic development, but that the property where the cross-country course is will be maintained and left alone so that it is the best viewed cross-country course in the state, and deed that portion to the Board of Education, and that is my motion.
You know
To
how much you're referring to, there needs to be.
It's
some-
30 acres or less.
Okay, we'll go with that. There will need to be a second to your motion to amend, and that would need to be debated and voted upon.
I'll second it. Okay, so we'll open it up to questions and comments. Sherry, you've already spoke on it. Is there anybody in opposition from what?
I wouldn't say I'm in opposition per se, but my worry is the county commission on board? If the county commission's not on board, this property's going to fall through. We're going to go into litigation, and Pinecrest Development's going to get the property
It's gonna
back.
look like Pinecrest.
Pinecrest.
Have you spoken to the Raleigh County Commission, Dale Hall?
Mr. Rubin,
About this?
has anybody spoken?
I've spoken with their counsel. I spoke with Billy Rubin today.
How does he feel about this?
He indicated that if the city was not prepared to move this along through first reading tonight, he was concerned that the county commission would opt to back away from the project in its entirety. So that's.
Even though
They have a
we voted to
they have a-
amend, right?
Yes, ma'am, they have a time frame that they are required to meet in order to spend the money that they have spoke to us about. And it's a tight time frame now.
Very much.
And
Is-
I must state that if the amendment is adopted, then I think what that's going to do is require us to go back to start over, because I believe that would be considered a material amendment. You cannot materially amend an ordinance. It has to be a very nominal amendment that I think removing a substantial piece of this property from the original intent here, which was to convey 131.47 acres.
But they still have 100 acres built to
But
develop.
I'm just saying, procedurally, I think if adopted, I think then this ordinance cannot be acted upon. I think it's going to have to start over, and there have to be two separate ordinances.
Well, I certainly don't want to do anything to make more have, but at the same time, I didn't want the conversation not to be made aware of that the Board of Education was interested in the property. Well, they do want it, and we found out that they want it, so I would think that the county commissioners would want what's best for their community. I also want, I believe that when the property was conveyed to us, and Mr. Fowle, you can correct me if I'm incorrect, that it was a part of that agreement that Pinecrest had a debt that the city of Beckley paid, correct?
Right.
And that was city taxpayer dollars that we paid $300,000 or give or take. No, granted, we used city taxpayer dollars to pay that. Now, we're getting lease money back and we've made that money back. But at the same time, I feel that, and I don't want to beat this to death, but if I didn't put this up for everybody to hear, then I'm not doing my due diligence. And we have a strong council now, and we have a city manager form of government, and I believe that our voices need to be heard. And that's just however we can go forward for the betterment of our youth or our future. And do we talk to the commissioners so that everybody can be on the same page? I mean, how do we go about so that we have a good resolution, Mr. Vaughn?
There was certainly, today was the first time I actually became aware that this was occurring. So the only individual I had an opportunity to speak with was Mr. Luke, their attorney. Mr. Luke was very concerned about what was occurring. I'm not about to speak on behalf
I understand.
of the county commission.
I understand.
The only way most likely to go forward would be to, I hate to say it, you have to kick the can down the road. You're going to probably have two separate ordinances. You're going to have an agreement of what they would accept. You're going to have to have an agreement of what the city of Beckley is willing to do. Right now, the city of Beckley owns this property. The city of Beckley controls this property.
Correct, and that's why that's why I wanted to
Right.
address it now while it's the city of Beckley property before it goes forward.
What could happen, there could be first reading tonight approved. There's still second reading and public hearing that will be scheduled in 2 weeks. That will give an opportunity for you to speak with whomever you need to speak with. As I said, I wasn't aware that this was occurring tonight. But I am concerned if we go forward and adopt an amendment, as you stated, that will defeat the ordinance in its entirety because it will be considered a material amendment to the ordinance.
One other question, Mr. File, too. Like, how long has the city and the county been working on this transition? And to make it clear, maybe you could talk more about why, a little bit more clear on why it is being transferred over to Raleigh County instead of staying in Beckley's hands.
Well, the reason it's being transferred is right now the county has ample funds, as we've been advised, to pay for the infrastructure to this property. The infrastructure is required if there's going to be any type of economic development on this property. That is the purpose. The city does not have the funds per se in an account to be used. So the city, if it chose to develop this property, would most likely have to go through the bonding process, which is a cumbersome, rather expensive process that is not going to occur quickly. My understanding is the county has to have these funds, or their funds committed by the end of this year, which is December 31st. And there are a lot of steps that the county is going to have to take to be in position to go forward with the development of the infrastructure. And this, of course, what the advantage is to the city is this property is located in the city limits. The city will receive the tax benefits for any business that operates there. We will receive certain taxes from any construction work that is done there. It is, in effect, a very good opportunity for the city of Beckley to move forward without having to go into further debt to take care of this property. And the county, it will help the county. It's my understanding the county commission has the funds. This is a project that they are very interested in spending their funds on. And and this transaction is subject to that.
Question. Is this the same property that should have been taken care of a long time ago? That we inherited? I mean, this should have been discussed a long time ago. For whatever reason, it never happened. Now, as usual, now all of a sudden, this is what we got to do.
It's anticipated there will be buildings built on this property.
And hopefully they'll be rented out
Right.
before.
This is property for economic development, this is to create jobs.
I understand it, but even though you build a building, they don't need somebody to rent it out. So
Well, I don't believe the county commission is planning to build the buildings itself. They are going to do the infrastructure so that the property will be ready,
I understand.
and so that businesses come in that
You mentioned a bond, so
that if the city is intending to develop this property, it most likely would have to go through the bonding process in order to, that's how they would borrow the money to pay for the several $1 million that's going to be required to build the infrastructure to make this property what's called pad ready, or in other words, ready for a business to come in and build on that property, on that site. So this is an opportunity that the county has asked us to consider, the county commission, and so that's why it's presented tonight.
And to be clear, there's a timeline that if it's not in place, it's gonna go back to the trust, the Pinecrest Trust. So it'll be out of the city's hands.
Yeah, nobody is sure where it will go.
Right.
Some unknown question.
But that is a possibility.
But it is a possibility.
Possibility,
Yes.
there's possibility of litigation.
Yes.
This could get tied up for a long
If it gets tied
time.
up.
That's a possibility. I can't state that.
You know, I really hate that the students and the athletes are in the crosshairs of a covenant. And I would think that, and this is just me, that we want what's best for our community. And yes, I understand job creation and bricks and mortar and B&O taxes, but I believe there's more to economic development than that. And if it's meant to be, then it'll happen that the cross-country course will remain there.
Well, I need to point out, I hope everybody understands that when I speak of the declaration of covenants and restrictions, these are not covenants and restrictions the city controls or the county controls. These are law now. They have been adopted, made a part of this property, and I don't think there's a way you're going to get around those. So any development done there is going to have to be done pursuant and in compliance with these covenants and restrictions, which is going to control the usage of that property. It's not something the city of Beckley or something the Board of Education or something the county commission can control. That has already been determined. When the property was deeded to the city of Beckley, it was deeded subject to these covenants and restrictions. We do not have the legal authority or ability to change these.
Okay, so we have two motions, correct, on the floor?
We do.
So
The
how
motion that would need to be
Is-
acted upon first would be Ms. Hunter's motion to amend the ordinance.
Okay,
And that would require, there was a second, so that requires a vote.
okay. I'm just trying to move things forward.
So we can't take a vote on the amendment tonight?
You can take a vote on the amendment. I'm just stating if the amendment passes, it most likely is going to defeat the ordinance in its entirety because that is going to be considered a material change to this ordinance.
Could we ask if there would be a material change to grant an easement to the county to continue the use for 50 years for the course? Would that be possible?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
A material change to grant an easement to the county to use for 50 years for the course. Could we not? I mean, I'm being told one thing. We have a groundswell of support that we don't need to belabor this, but I don't want to do anything against the law. I'm trying to do what's best for the community and for our children that are.
And there's one other thing, to be fair, Jenna Belcher sent an email. I mean, it's not like we're going to leave Coach Barbarian out in the cold. I think Jenna Belcher said it was like 30 or 40 some acres at least where it was not going to be developed. And we could easily, if had to down the road, move the cross-country track. I mean, it's not like we're just going to kick out to the curb and move on and start putting businesses in. So I don't want us to look that way. So
I
even if we
think
vote for this, it's not like we're turning our backs on the cross country. I was out there a couple Saturdays ago, it was packed, I had a great time. But the bottom line is, from everything everybody I've talked to yesterday and today about this, is the county is just gonna walk away from this deal. And then, in most likelihood, it's gonna go right back to the Pinecrest Trust. So if that happens, everybody loses. And I think this is a super important, I said it 2 weeks ago when the building group was here, I was like, listen, we are in the 11th hour.
Right.
The county has the money right now to get the infrastructure done.
They can do the infrastructure, Ron, that's right,
Right.
Mayor. Do the infrastructure away from the cross-country course.
And
Why
they're
can we
gonna walk
not-
away from it. They're gonna walk away.
How do you know
That-
the county commission's gonna walk away from that?
Can we table the amendment, Mr. Fowler, and then go back to the original?
Or this is still the first reading,
Well,
right?
what we need to happen, I will let
Can we
table
go
the
back?
amendment without tabling the whole ordinance,
Yeah.
but you can vote on the amendment and see where that goes.
And then we can go back?
And then once that's voted on, if the amendment fails or passes, then we can still vote on the entire ordinance. But I think we're going to have to consider this ordinance no longer applicable if the amendment passes, for the very reason I've stated a couple times now. It's a material amendment to the ordinance.
Okay.
And I think we need to be very careful about acting as if somebody can use that property as they choose, because there are covenants and restrictions that are legal, and they will be enforced. And I don't
Mr.
think there
Farr.
was ever any, and I've been told by Mr. Beckley, who was involved in the original transfer of this property, that there was never any agreement that the cross-country team could use this property indefinitely, that they were advised that there was going to be economic development there, and once the economic development occurred, then that would take precedent over the use by the team. That's what we've been advised.
Mr. Fowle, can I just ask,
Yes, ma'am.
is it possible to overturn a covenant with an ordinance?
No, ma'am.
I didn't think so.
No, you're
That's what I
not.
was told.
You most likely would have to go into court, it would take a lawsuit in order to overturn a covenant or restriction on the property. An ordinance, we don't have the authority, the legal authority to overturn it. City council doesn't, nor does the county commission. So, has there been was there a second to Ms. Hunter's?
Was there a second
I know there was a second to the original ordinance, I didn't know.
motion to amend? So do you want to take a vote?
It needs to be voted upon.
Okay, all those in favor of adding the amendment that Sherry Hunter presented, please say by saying aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
So the amendment's lost. So now we'll take a vote. First reading to approve the transfer of Pinecrest. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay, so thank you. We'll move on to number 7.